To This Week on Main Street. I'm Chris Owens, CEO of Noblesville Main Street, and it's our first show of 2017, which must mean, I'll get that eventually, just hang with me here, that event season is right around the corner. We've got a special guest today, Mike Hoffmeister, Assistant Director of Noblesville Parks and Recreation, and we'll be talking with Mike about I was going to say all things Federal Hill Commons, but you know, it's really most things Federal Hill Commons at this point, because it's a reality, and we'll talk about that coming up as it pertains to the farmers market in just a couple minutes. But want to give you kind of a glimpse of what's been happening with Main Street over the course of the last few months. A lot of planning, a lot of paperwork to get all that planning approved, and we really kick off the majority of our event season this Friday evening with Upstairs Downtown. In Noblesville. It is a self-guided walking tour throughout, I think we have 13 or 14 different properties on the tour this year. It's going to kick off at the Adler Building, and that's where you can buy tickets. Can't buy tickets until the night of the event at 5 p.m., but that's where you can buy tickets for $10 a piece. We'll also have a guide there with a few historical facts about each of these places on the tour this year, and a map about how to navigate those. Some of your favorites are back this year. We've also got an apartment in the Richwine building, the old Boys Club, the Milltop building is an option this year for us, 950 and 960 Logan, the Cable building, and several others. So we do have a Facebook event page set up for that, and again, that's this coming Friday the 5th from 5 to 9 p.m. in downtown Noblesville, and our Fine Parks Department has an event that night too.
We do absolutely. Salsa for Salsa, a celebration for the Cinco de Mayo holiday, is also happening Friday evening, May 5th. You know, we are well aware that there is a potential for some major rain coming in this weekend, so yet again we're keeping our eye on the radars. But our first event is going to be happening Friday, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. We're going to have about 12 salsa vendors out there providing salsa for our participants. You can get a mini bag of chips for $2 and try any of the salsas that you'd like. We'll also have a number of food trucks out, a couple food trucks as well, serving full meals if you want a little more than chips and salsa. We're also going to have a live band on stage at Federal Hill performing local and heritage music from the Latino community. So we're very excited to have that at Federal Hill as our first official event. Knock on wood, hopefully there's going to be rain, but maybe we can make it happen for Friday. But we're very excited about that. Come on out to Federal Hill May 5th.
Yeah, I think that probably brings up a good point. You know, when it comes to several of these events, the way of social media now is probably the easiest to notify people in case there has to be a cancellation or an adjustment. So there's a shameless plug for the Noblesville Main Street Facebook page. That will be the first place we post notice of any sort of cancellation or adjustment if it has to be made to this event, and I think that's a good transition for us to talk to. This is really the first weekend of 2 or 3 weekends throughout the summer. Now, it doesn't feel like summer right now,
no.
But 2 or 3 weekends throughout the summer where there's going to be a lot of cooperative programming happening, a lot of collaborative effort to bring people to our downtown. And so you've got two complimentary events on Friday evening, and then Saturday morning we roll into the first farmers market of the season at Federal Hill Commons.
Yeah, we're very excited to host the Main Street farmers market at Federal Hill. I know Chris and I have been working closely for the last month or two, really about the layout and really about the layout of where the vendors are going to go and loading and unloading, and that's more so Chris and his staff who are doing that. But we're very excited to be the new host for the market.
Well, and I think it's important to note that although the layout is going to be different and there are going to be some changes, we're really excited about this. And you know, Riverview was very generous to us with that space over the last several years, but we've also had to go back in discussions with them when they were talking about developing that property, the overflow lot, what it could be, and we looked at no less than 6 alternate spaces for the farmers market. Keeping in mind the vision of Noblesville Main Street and the mission of Noblesville Main Street of really activating our downtown, this is a great asset for us. It's going to be a great opportunity. There are going to be some growing pains, and we know that. We've had a couple different vendor meetings. We had a very active market committee that really looked at the layout and how vendors are to be placed, how we can move people to and from the property. All that to say, I think patience is key in this.
Absolutely.
And, you know, there's another strong chance of weather for Saturday, so we'll get our rain plan up and going potentially first thing. But we will have staff out there on site, as well as off-duty police officers and others to help facilitate this first week and see how we can move people in and out of the property, starting with vendors, and then when we open to the public at 8 a.m. I, for one, am really excited, and I count it as a privilege that you all involved Main Street from the start of this, when it was just a concept, when it was more of a fleeting thought than an actual plan with a budget, and to see it come to fruition is exciting. To be out there on Saturday, there were several people that were hosted at a VIP reception in the green room, which is another unique feature of this property. But to see, even on the heels of the Art in the Parks luncheon last Friday, what that netted for that property in terms of the interactive musical equipment on the back of the amphitheater. Just walk through a few of the new amenities that are going to be available to us.
Sure. So a lot of design function was taken from the public, as well as Main Street, as well as the Noblesville Cultural Arts Commission, who is another not-for-profit community group in town that we partner with for lots of programming. So the Market Plaza there was built and designed to host the farmers market. While it won't fit all of the market vendor booths, it will fit the majority of them. Another function that Chris Owens mentioned were the musical instruments on the back of the stage. Those were donated by the Noblesville Park Foundation with the funds raised by the park luncheon, which was last Friday, which has happened 3 times now. And you'd be surprised, the musical instruments are built in the back of the wall of the stage, and they are used constantly. That's one of our favorite sounds to hear out there are the musical instruments and the chimes that come with it. And kids can activate the stage with the musical instruments while it's not being used for a formal event. So we're very excited. We also have the bison out there. We can't forget about the bison. The bison,
the Triceratops.
Or the Triceratops, or
3-year-old called it.
The bull. Some people have called it a bull also. The bison that's out there is actually the bison from the Indiana State Fair last year when Indiana was celebrating the bicentennial, so bicentennial. And its final grazing spot was chosen to be Federal Hill, and it's anchored out there, and it's not to be climbed on. I want to put that out there, that it's not to be climbed on, but there will be some additional signage out there that tell the public what it is and why it's here, and we're very honored to have it here. So
it's a nice little splash of color out there too, and I think that's one thing you're going to see throughout the property. I know there was some seating installed or set out there recently that are nice little pops of color throughout the facility. One thing that Federal Hill affords us that we haven't had in the past is dedicated restroom facilities. We'll now have recycling as an option on site, and a playground as well as some public seating. And not only dedicated tables and chairs, but there's some retaining walls in other areas that people can utilize as seating.
Absolutely. So the limestone that you see around the park also, we tie it back to the old model mill, which was here in town. Obviously got torn down, but we pulled some of that history into Federal Hill to honor the past in the history of Noblesville, and that's some of that seating that Chris is mentioning.
You talked about the layout earlier, and this has been, I think we're on version 72 of this. When you start a project like this, you get the initial architect's rendering of what's going to be on site, and I want to give credit to Ratio Architects and Myers Construction Management as really 2 key partners for you guys in this who involved us early. John Jackson, it was a pleasure to see him, and there's a great tribute to Craig Glazier as part of this effort as well. But we've taken kind of the early concept of farmers market layout and fast forward to where we are. It's been sent to vendors, and we're still making a couple last-minute changes. So what you'll see when you look at Federal Hill Commons from an overall view or from a layout view is in the southwest corner of the property, you'll see kind of some crisscross strings of lights. That's the Market Plaza area, and we'll be able to host, we originally thought about 70 vendors out there. We've kind of pared that down to around 40 to 45 to allow more access for people to walk and navigate the market. We're one of the few markets in the area that still allow dogs, so we have to take leashes into account and other safety items. The focus has been really, instead of concentrating only on that Market Plaza, but to really activate the entire property. So directly north of that Market Plaza is where we'll have some on-site parking available. We've taken steps with vendors to ask that they, if possible, limit themselves to 1 car, and if they're physically able, that they move that vehicle off-site so that we have more parking for our patrons. And we'll talk about parking in just a minute, more parking for our patrons on site. Directly to the east of that market plaza is where you'll find the Noblesville Rotary Club shelter, and that may cover some of our talent from time to time.
Sure.
On that plaza area there in front of the public restrooms is where you'll find the Noblesville Main Street Hospitality Tent. That'll be presented this year by Community Health Network, and that's where we'll feature our nonprofit or community group of the week. And then to have even more access to space, in front of the amphitheater is a large event lawn, a circular event lawn with a really a trail-sized path, a 20-foot size walking path around it. We will activate that with probably an additional 40 vendors as well, and even potentially put a couple there by the green room if you think in terms of the former First Merchants branch that was there. Now, a new feature this year would be the First Merchants ATM there on the back wall. It's on the west wall. Kind of think in terms of where the old drive-through used to be. That's been repurposed as a VIP area.
It has been. So the green room is what we're calling it, which is the old bank building right at the corner of State Road 19 and Logan Street. Excuse me. We have repurposed and renovated to be a rental facility for baby showers or birthday parties or whatnot. VIP events for our corporate sponsors for special events that are taking place out there. Potentially green rooms if we're bringing in bigger bands that need the space to change or eat prior to a show. So it's really a versatile building. And as you mentioned earlier, Chris, the teller window is now enclosed with fencing, has been totally repurposed and redesigned, and is our patio. It's called the Overlook, created by Myers Construction Management, Inc., as they donated their time and their materials to really repurpose that particular portion of that venue. So as Chris mentioned before, we had our VIP dinner out there with dignitaries, local partners, elected officials, design and construction team, and it was beautiful to overlook the event lawn and the First Merchants Pavilion. So we cannot wait to get into our event season this year.
And so parking has been one of the big questions I've gotten as we move into this. I just mentioned what we've asked our vendors to do. Surprisingly, in a discussion this morning, we realized that more available parking on site than people think. And our police department and our parks department have been really proactive in trying to help us think about moving people to and from. I think there are going to be other options in the future that maybe the city or the county can announce. But on our social media, on your social media originally, and I believe on our website as well, there was a parking map referred to. And what's the number of parking spaces within a 5-minute walk?
So I think there's about 1,200 parking spots within a 5-minute walk. And, I believe you're seeing a map right now that we have pushed on social media as well as Chris has, I believe. We've also given it to Chris's market vendors as well. But this kind of illustrates where people should park, where traffic flow will be. And this is really geared for our 2,000 to 3,000 special events. Certainly applies to our smaller events, the farmers market and other events. But on site, there's about 140 parking spots, and then additionally within a 5-minute walk, about 1,200, including the old Kahlo lot and the Riverview Half Moon lot where their patients park. We've received permission to use those, as well as all the public county and city lots that are in town across the river. So there's plenty of parking. That's one of the things we hear about, where are people going to park. Additionally, to get people to the park, we will be working closely with Noblesville Police to surround Federal Hill Commons with about 12 police officers so that our participants are getting across all of those roads safely. So we are prepared for a large event.
And again, the police presence with the farmers market is kind of pared down in week one to help us facilitate that. There will certainly be ongoing discussions about that. I think when you mentioned 12 officers or so, you'll see those for some of the larger events.
Absolutely.
And we've got one of those we need to talk about coming up, which references something we mentioned earlier, but do want to say that we're excited to be working with a new program manager this year for the farmers market, Tracy Broman, and she'll be out there as the on-site Main Street representative. Several members of our board of directors will be available week 1 and week 2 out there, and just looking for a great experience. We would ask that if you are physically able and could park in those adjacent lots and walk to maybe make it a little bit easier on some of our residents or some of our patrons that have some mobility issues. Think kindly of your neighbors and do that. But this really kicks off 24 weeks where we're going to have a business showcase the first Saturday every month, June through October. We have special event days each month, and it seems like the market just ended, and for it to be here again is a little daunting, but it's very exciting at the same time. Mike, earlier we talked about complimentary programming happen on both sides of the river. We've got another great example of that coming up in June, and through our partnership with you guys and the Boys and Girls Club, I think you'll really see kind of an amazing weekend Friday night with the bed race.
Oh my gosh.
The pork chop dinner, and then Saturday morning it's the farmer's market and the pancake breakfast. We'll be doing a collaborative sidewalk sale with our merchants downtown throughout the day to replace what was formerly the Old Mill Festival. But then really exciting announcement coming that afternoon to Noblesville, and I'll let you take that.
Yeah, so in addition to everything that we're already doing that weekend, I have to mention Thursday, June 1st, we're also having our first summer concert.
That's right.
So we've got an event Thursday, June 1st, bed race Friday, June 2nd, all of what Chris mentioned Saturday, June 3rd. In addition to that, we've got Return of the Mac coming. This is an event that is ticketed. $25, I believe, per ticket for a 2-hour tasting session, unlimited mac and cheese eating for 2 hours or 3 hours.
They could have called it heaven.
They could, yes, they should have. What's really cool about this is that they're going to bring 20 to 30 chefs in from Indianapolis, many of whom are coming from Noblesville, actually, that are going to be cooking macaroni. And you get to come out, and there will be a cash bar available. It is family friendly as well. There will be live music. I believe a DJ is coming in. So the Return of the Mac is coming to Federal Hill on Saturday, June 3rd. And then after that, we've got our first tribute concert, which is our first, if you will, big show out there. 16 Candles, which is a huge 80s tribute band from Chicago that we're bringing in to perform out there that night. So that first week of June is going to be huge.
Yeah, so we realize we've thrown a lot of information at you today, everything across the board from historic properties to macaroni and cheese and salsa and easiest way to find out information, I think, for both organizations is really check out our website, check out the parks website, and then again, social media is probably the best way to keep up with everything. Should we need to make an adjustment to the schedule, should we need to make any cancellations or anything like that? And it's probably one last thing we should mention is in terms of the farmers market, things will function a little bit differently out there for weather cancellation. If we are forced to call that based on lightning, there will be likely a complete shutdown. So anyway, we'll cover more of that in the weeks to come. Mike, thanks so much for your time.
Having me.
We're
appreciate it.
Looking forward to a great summer, and this is really the weekend to kick it all off. So thanks for joining us. Any questions, please visit our website, noblesvillemainstreet.org.